Life inherently operates by the law of impermanence, much like a river that is sometimes clear and calm, and at other times turbulent and raging. No one journeys through this life encountering only sunshine, and no one is strong enough to never want to stop. Set down every burden weighing on their shoulders. Take a long breath and admit that they are truly tired. Tiredness isn't a sign of weakness, but rather because sometimes we've had to bravely endure for too many days, not daring to grant ourselves the right to rest. The Buddha once taught that if the body is tired, let it rest. If the mind is weary, let it be still. These simple teachings remind us that being allowed to be weak, to be sad, to pause for a moment, is not a failure, but a very natural part of life. There are people who always appear strong when they go out, but are empty inside. There are nights when one lies down, feeling suffocated, not wanting to face tomorrow. Work pressure, unsatisfying relationships, unfinished plans, family expectations, all accumulate, making our minds as heavy as a vast boulder. We often try to hide our true feelings, thinking that complaining is weakness, but the more we suppress, the more cluttered our minds become. Like a room kept closed for years, it will become dusty and dark. At that point, even a small incident can make us feel like collapsing instantly. Not a few people have confided that they feel so helpless, they wake up as if life has lost its meaning. They say everything before them becomes blurry. The future seems extinguished. But strangely, even on the worst days, life always holds onto a tiny thread of hope for us. It's just that we're too tired to see it. The truth is, everyone has phases where they feel they can't take another step. Yet, they still overcome it. The big and small difficulties in life are not meant to defeat us, but to temper us into a more resilient version of ourselves. Sometimes, you'll find your heart like a full glass, just one more drop of water, and it will overflow. Consecutive difficulties leave you feeling adrift, wanting to give up everything. Yet, that very moment is when you need to stop and listen to yourself. Take a deep breath in and exhale slowly. Feeling each breath is a way to return to the present, to the inherent peace within. When your mind settles, you'll see that you are not alone on this journey. In this vast world, there are still people ready to listen to you. Even if they can't help much, sincere listening is enough to warm our hearts. Many people constantly chase after things they haven't achieved, forgetting what they already have. They long for immediate success, then become disappointed when results don't meet their expectations. They compare themselves to others and create unnecessary pressure. That's like wanting to harvest sweet fruit as soon as you sow the seeds. Lasting results cannot be rushed. Sometimes, just a little more patience, just a few more steps, and you will see the light waiting on the other side of the hill. If you're tired, rest. If your heart is too cluttered, let go of unnecessary things. Life is already complex enough, so we don't need to burden it further with negative thoughts. When we learn to simplify everything, the world naturally becomes lighter. When we know to let go of what should be released and keep what needs to be kept, the mind naturally finds peace. Life isn't always rosy, but we can learn to walk through dark days without losing ourselves. We can be weak, we can cry, we can be sad, but never forget that even the smallest effort today is leading us to a stronger version of ourselves tomorrow. You are safe. You are being heard on the Zen Buddhist Dharma channel. And you are never walking alone. Each person's life operates by the law of impermanence. All that we experience today is just a small segment in the vast current of human life. Sometimes life is as light as a leaf, sometimes as heavy as a boulder deep in a mountain. This change gives no warning, nor does it wait for us to be ready. There are mornings when you wake up feeling light and full of energy. But there are also days when you open your eyes and a heavy feeling has already enveloped your entire soul. That is the natural essence of this life. Impermanence always reminds us that all states are in flux, including the fatigue we carry. Many people think they're tired from working too much. But if you look deeper, you will see that some people do no strenuous work, yet are still exhausted. Meanwhile, some work continuously for many hours, but their minds remain peaceful. True fatigue doesn't just come from the body, but mainly from the mind. The Buddha once clearly stated that the root of suffering lies not in events themselves, but in how our minds react to them. Two people may experience the same circumstance, but if one's mind is at peace, it will feel light. If their mind is troubled, it will feel heavy. Therefore, what exhausts people is not what happens externally, but the endless internal struggle within themselves. Many people wonder why they get tired so easily, why despite trying so hard, they still feel heavy. Why does just a small comment from someone make them think all night? These questions appear more and more in modern life when people have material abundance but suffer spiritual depletion. The essence of fatigue lies in our minds, holding on to too many things that we shouldn't keep. We hold on to what others say about us. We hold on to family expectations. We hold on to worries about an unarrived future. We hold on to regrets from a past that's over. We carry mountains of responsibilities, mountains of expectations, mountains of unnamed things that only when night falls do we dare admit are suffocating us. Viewed through the lens of Buddhist Dharma, the fatigue we experience stems from attachment. Attachment means to grasp and to cling. When the mind clings to something, it is immediately bound by it. Like someone holding a hot coal. Hold it long and it burns. Put it down and it's light. But people often fear letting go, thinking that letting go means losing. Whereas, truly, only by losing the burden can we move further. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from greed, hatred, and delusion. We are tired because we desire. We are tired because we want. We are tired because we place too many expectations on life for everything to go our way. When reality doesn't meet our expectations, we hurt. When people aren't as we wish, we're sad. When results aren't as we planned, we're disappointed. These emotions pile up, forming a thick layer of rock in our minds, making it increasingly hard to breathe. Not only do expectations tire us, but overthinking also erodes our energy. Many people work 8 hours, but think for 16 hours, and the rest is spent worrying. They think about what has happened, what hasn't happened, and what might happen. They conjure up dozens of stories in their minds that exhaust them. In the scriptures, the Buddha once likened a chaotic mind to a monkey swinging through branches, always leaping from one thought to another without a moment's rest. It is this restlessness that drains our energy. A tired body can rest, but a tired mind is hard to stop if we don't know how to turn inward. Besides thoughts and expectations, people are also tired due to hurt. Every harsh word from someone, every failure we encounter, every betrayal, every misunderstanding, every effort that doesn't yield desired results, all leave scratches in our hearts. Initially, they're just small scratches, but because we cling to them and don't let go, they become wounds. And when a wound isn't healed, it becomes a sharp thorn that makes even a slight touch painful. Prolonged pain leads to fatigue. Prolonged fatigue turns into discouragement, and eventually leads to mental exhaustion. Modern people get tired more easily than those of the past because this era constantly makes us compare ourselves to others. Social media makes that easier than ever. Just a few taps, and we've seen the beautiful lives of dozens of people. We don't know how many tears, how many fears, how much unseen pressure lies behind those dazzling photos. But we still compare ourselves. If others succeed, we blame ourselves. If others are happy, we feel sad. If others are wealthy, we feel inferior. This comparison unknowingly creates an invisible backpack that we carry on our backs every day. There's a story about a backpack of stones that many have heard, but each retelling carries a different, profound meaning. It's said that there was an ordinary man, like any other. Every morning he would wake up, put on his backpack, and go to work. However, his backpack grew heavier and heavier over the years. Inside the backpack were not papers or tools, but stones. No one put these stones in for him. He put them in himself. Every time he had a negative thought, he'd put another stone in. Every time he took others' criticism to heart, he'd add another stone. Every time he blamed himself for a small mistake, he'd put in yet another stone. When he had excessive expectations for something and was disappointed, he'd cram in a stone larger than usual. And so, his backpack grew heavier each day, though he didn't realize it. One day, as he walked down the street, his legs suddenly trembled. The backpack on his back was so heavy that he couldn't lift his feet anymore. He collapsed in the street, not because the road was too long, not because he was too weak, but because he carried too many unnecessary things on his back. Passers-by saw him, ran to help, and were astonished when they opened his backpack, because it was full of stones. They asked him why he burdened himself with such heavy things. He bowed his head and said that he thought he had to keep them, thought they were important, thought that if he let go, he would become irresponsible, weak, or judged by others. But when he heard the advice of those around him, he realized that he had been tormenting himself for years. That story reflects the lives of many people. We are not tired because of the road ahead, but because we carry too many invisible burdens in our minds. Tired from unnamed fears, tired from things that no longer belong to the present, tired from clinging to what's no longer suitable, tired from wanting to please too many people, tired from trying to prove our worth in a way society expects. And the most tiring is when we know we're hurting, but try to pretend to be peaceful, just because we're afraid others will see us as weak. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha taught about the nature of suffering. Suffering is unavoidable. More importantly, he taught us how to understand the causes of suffering, so we know how to resolve them. When we understand the nature of fatigue, we will find our minds more open. Tiredness is because we resist reality. Tiredness is because we swim against the current, instead of allowing our minds to rest in the present moment. Tiredness is because we allow too much external influence to control us internally. When the mind releases those attachments, fatigue naturally dissolves. Once, during a retreat, someone asked a Zen master, "Why have I never seen you tired?" The master simply smiled and replied, "People only get tired when they carry too many things that belong to others. Life itself is not heavy. It's our minds that make it heavy. If we know to keep what is necessary and let go of what is not worthwhile, our body and mind will be free." That statement is like a key unlocking a door, helping us better understand the nature of fatigue in life. Many people think they must be strong to be recognized, must be superior to others to deserve to live. But in truth, being oneself is the most important thing. No one needs you to be perfect. No one needs you to always be happy or resilient. Life doesn't operate by society's standards. Life operates by nature's standards. Nature has sunny days and rainy days, brilliant summers and quiet winters. Humans are the same. When you're sad, admit you're sad. When you're tired, admit you're tired. When you need to rest, allow yourself to rest. That is the most genuine form of self-understanding and self-love. In this era, many people are caught in the whirlpool of comparison. They see others succeed and think they are inferior. But they don't know that Warren Buffett once said, "Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10. Each person's life has a different journey, and no two are alike. Bamboo needs years to take root before it shoots up tall. A flower only needs a few months to bloom. Each species has its own time to shine. Fatigue occurs when we are impatient, wanting life to follow the pace we've set for ourselves. The pandemic in recent years has exhausted many people with worry and insecurity. Some lost their jobs. Some lost loved ones. Some lost their direction. But in those circumstances, there are also countless stories that show the strength of the human spirit. There are ordinary people who, when facing adversity, become extraordinarily strong. That's not because they aren't tired, but because they understand that life doesn't always go as planned. And the only thing they can do is accept and move forward. Once the mind accepts, the fatigue will be halved. Returning to daily life, we see that people are tired because we often don't live in the present. We live too much in the past and future. We regret what's past and worry about what's yet to come. Meanwhile, the present moment is forgotten. The Buddha taught that the present is life itself. When the mind returns to the breath, to our footsteps, to what is happening before our eyes, we will find our hearts more peaceful. The present is the only place where fatigue has no foothold. Because fatigue mainly comes from wandering thoughts about the past or future. From the analyses above, we can see that the cause of human fatigue lies not in the amount of work or living circumstances, but in how we carry emotions and thoughts in our minds. When the mind lets go, the body is light. When the mind clings, the body is heavy. When the mind opens, life is expansive. When the mind closes, life is narrow. That is a truth anyone can experience if they know to pause for a moment and look deeply within. So, how do we become less tired? First is to recognize that we are tired. Many people are tired, but pretend to be fine. They force themselves to keep going, to take on more responsibilities, to keep trying until they can no longer bear it. Then they collapse. If the man in the story had known to open his backpack and remove the stones earlier, he wouldn't have collapsed in the street. Humans are the same. We must know that we have the right to put down what hurts us. We have the right to refuse unsuitable expectations. We have the right not to hold on to criticisms that wound us. And we have the right to live a simpler life. The second thing is to learn to see things with mindful eyes. When something happens, instead of reacting immediately with emotion, stop and observe what is happening. When someone says something unpleasant, remember that the words belong to them, not to us. When a plan fails, see it as a lesson, not a predetermined sentence. When a desire is not fulfilled, accept that life always has its own path that no one can force. Mindfulness helps us not get swept into emotional whirlpools and thereby reduces fatigue. The third thing is to believe that everyone has the ability to heal themselves. The human mind is like a lake. When there's a strong wind, the lake is stirred. When the wind stops, the water naturally settles. Our minds are the same. Just a small pause, a slightly deeper breath, and we will see the chaos slowly settling. The important thing is not to turn our minds into a warehouse full of worries. Let the mind breathe. Let the mind have space. Let yourself live lighter. When we understand why we're tired, we won't blame ourselves anymore. We will know how to love ourselves more. We will know when to put things down. We will know that fatigue is not an enemy, but a signal reminding us to return to ourselves. When we accept that, we embark on a true journey of healing. You may have been strong for years, tried hard for months, pushed yourself through many nights. But right now, allow yourself to breathe. Allow yourself to rest. Allow your mind the chance to lighten. Because in everyone's heart, there is an invisible backpack, and you can absolutely choose to remove some stones from it at any time. When you learn to let go of worries, fatigue will no longer control you. When the mind is at peace, life naturally softens, and you will see that lightness has always been within reach, just waiting for you to realize it. Life is inherently impermanent. Humans are born, grow change, and continue to walk through a series of dissimilar days. What worried us yesterday suddenly seems insignificant today. What we thought was important this morning becomes small by evening, overshadowed by countless other events. Everything is in motion, changing in its own way. In that cycle, we constantly try to hold on, try to do so much, want to run so fast to keep up with life. But the paradox is, the more we try to push, the more exhausted we become. The tighter we cling, the more tired we get. Like gripping a rope tighter, the hand hurts more. Such is life. The more we resist, the more we hurt. People often think they must be strong, persistent, and always moving forward to live correctly. But in the teachings of the Buddha, knowing when to stop at the right time is wisdom. Knowing how to rest, how to quiet down, how to take a deep breath to observe one's mind, is also a part of growth. There are days you feel yourself swept away by the current of work, so tired you no longer recognize yourself. There are times you are stressed while working, chasing expectations, and fearing that if you stop, everything will fall apart. You fear being slower than others, being judged, not meeting expectations. You forget that in nature, nothing moves endlessly. The wind needs to calm. The rain needs to stop. The waves need to dissipate for the ocean to be peaceful. Humans are the same. No one can run their whole life without stopping once. Buddhism always reminds us that everything originates in the mind. When the mind is chaotic, everywhere we look, we see dead ends. When the mind is exhausted, even small matters become heavy burdens. The Buddha taught that when the heart is restless, what needs to be done is not to try to run faster, but to return to the breath. Because breath is the bridge that brings us back to reality, the thread that keeps us from drifting in a chaotic stream of thoughts. When we breathe deeply, the mind immediately slows down. When we stop, life immediately opens up bright spaces we didn't see before. Stopping is not failure. Stopping is not a sign of weakness. Sometimes stopping is the bravest act, because it requires us to face ourselves, observe our minds, and look directly at what we have been avoiding for so long. In Buddhist Dharma, turning inward is as important as taking action. A person who only knows how to act, but not how to stop, can easily get lost in the very things they are pursuing. Conversely, a person who knows when to rest will clearly see the path, knowing which steps to take and which to let go of. That is why the Buddha taught us to stop to see clearly. When we quiet our minds, vexations settle like dust, and we realize that nothing is truly as painful as we once thought. People often suffer not because work is too heavy, but because their minds grasp too much. We cling to expectations, cling to pressure, cling to fears. We allow ourselves to be pulled into an invisible race set up by society. We compare ourselves to others, set high standards for ourselves, and then blame ourselves when we don't achieve them. And then we get tired. But strangely, the more tired we get, the more we force ourselves to continue. Like an overloaded machine, instead of stopping for maintenance, we try to push the accelerator. Only when it completely breaks down do we admit that we have neglected ourselves for too long. This psychology stems from fear. People fear falling behind, fear being misunderstood by others, fear losing their worth if they allow themselves to rest. This fear makes us prisoners of ourselves. We lock ourselves in stress, creating dense schedules to compensate for feelings of insecurity. But the Buddha taught that the more tired you are, the more you must know when to stop. The more confused you are, the more you must know to turn inward. A common story can help us better understand the lesson of stopping. Once upon a time, there was a young seamstress. She sewed clothes for a large store, so customers rushed her every day. From shirt orders to skirt orders, from skirts to jackets. She almost stayed up all night to deliver products on time. Fatigue made her eyes heavy, her hands trembled, but in her mind, she had only one thought: to finish the work. She believed that resting was a waste of time, a delay in progress, and would disappoint others. So Bazu, the more she sewed, the more the machine needle got stuck, the more the stitches became crooked, and the beautiful fabric suddenly became messy. She got annoyed and wanted to work even faster, trying to overcome her fatigue by forcing herself to concentrate. But the more she tried, the more mistakes she made. The stitches kept breaking, her hands kept shaking, the machine kept jerking. It wasn't until the needle broke completely that she finally gave up. She leaned against the wall, sighed, and drank a sip of water, allowing silence to surround her for a few minutes. Just a few minutes. But her mind settled. When she returned to look at the machine, she realized the needle had been bent for a long time. But because she was in such a hurry, so rushed, so stressed, she hadn't seen it. If she had stopped earlier, she would have realized the problem from the beginning. If she had allowed herself a little rest, she wouldn't have ruined the whole fabric. This seemingly small story contains a big lesson. When we're tired, our minds aren't clear. When our minds aren't clear, any action is prone to error. Stopping is not to slow down. Stopping is to see clearly. When we see clearly, we act correctly. When we act correctly, we move faster without fatigue. That is the wisdom of rest. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught that to find peace of mind, one must first return to the breath. The breath is the mind's safest refuge. When we breathe in and out with awareness, the mind immediately becomes clear. All confusion gradually dissolves. All worries become lighter. A person who knows when to stop, when their mind is chaotic, will avoid many mistakes. A person who knows when to rest at the right time will maintain enduring strength to go far. The Buddha once said that even he had to rest after teaching Dharma sessions. If the Buddha, a being of supreme wisdom, knew to rest, why do we force ourselves to be someone who runs nonstop? Many people misunderstand the word rest. They think resting is weakness, laziness, or avoidance. But the teachings of the Buddha remind us that rest is nurturing, caring for body and mind, returning to natural balance. A person who knows how to rest is truly strong because they don't fear life slowing down. They understand that every step, whether small or large, requires mindfulness. They know that when the mind is at peace, life is at peace. If the mind is chaotic, even simple matters become complicated. Therefore, when you feel your heart is heavy, your mind is stiff, your body is aching, remember that you were not born to run forever. You were born to experience life, to grow, to understand yourself, and to love yourself. No one can love you more than you can if you know when to stop at the right time. The lesson learned from the seamstress's story is also a lesson for each of us. Sometimes the only thing we need to do is stop. Just stop for a few minutes. Take a few deep breaths. Look at everything from a different perspective. When we stop, things we didn't see before will emerge. When we breathe, our minds lighten. When the mind is light, wisdom opens. As the Buddha once taught, the mind is like still water. If stirred, the water is cloudy. If left undisturbed, the water settles and becomes clear. When the water is clear, we can see the bottom. When the mind is clear, we can see ourselves. Stopping helps us see the depths of our minds, see the things we have forgotten, see the fatigue we have covered up with ceaseless activity. You can apply this lesson to your life with seemingly small actions that carry great healing power. When work is too stressful, stand up from your desk for a minute, relax your shoulders, place your hand on your chest, and feel your breath. When a relationship hurts you, don't rush to react. Give yourself time to calm down before saying what needs to be said. When you are swept into worry, close your eyes and let your breath guide you back to reality. When your body is tired, don't try to finish one more task. Rest to rejuvenate your energy. Rest is not laziness, but self-respect. Rest helps you return to a state of balance, helping you maintain a kind heart amidst life's many turbulences. Stopping at the right time also helps us not miss the beautiful things life offers. When we run too fast, we don't see the last rays of sunlight gently falling on the porch. We don't feel the wind rustling through the trees, don't hear our own heartbeat when night falls, don't feel the warmth of those who love us. Life is not just about goals to achieve, not just about expectations to meet. Life is also about peaceful moments amidst busyness, a loved one's smile, a simple but wholesome meal, the feeling of relief when we let go of a burden. When you know when to stop, you will realize that there is no need to rush. Everything has its time. Flowers bloom in their season. Rain falls at the right moment. Life has its natural rhythm. You don't need to push yourself to run faster than life. You just need to live at your own pace, gently, mindfully, peacefully, as the Buddha taught that the human heart is like a field. To have a good harvest, you must know how to care for the soil, know how to let it rest to recover, know how to let the rain and wind nurture the seeds. If you keep planting without stopping, the soil will become barren, and the plants will not be able to sprout. Therefore, allow yourself to rest. Allow your mind to settle. Allow your breath to guide you back to the peaceful home within yourself. When you stop at the right time, you will find that life is not so heavy after all. The things that worry you will become lighter. Conflicts will become easier to resolve. Pressures will transform into motivation for you to walk more steadily. You don't need to prove anything. Don't need to compare yourself to anyone. You just need to listen to your heart and live each moment fully. Rest is how you love yourself. Stopping is how you open a new path that is brighter, lighter, and more peaceful. Life always operates by the law of change. Today is sunny. Tomorrow it might rain. Today your mind is peaceful. Tomorrow it might be troubled by countless vexations. Nothing is immutable in this world. Impermanence lies not only in the changes of the external world, but also in every thought, every emotion, every perspective of each person. What we see today might make us sad. But looking back tomorrow, who knows? It might become a valuable lesson. What we once thought was a loss years later might turn out to be the foundation for our growth. So, just by changing our perspective, the world around us changes. Buddhist Dharma always reminds us that the mind is the root of all phenomena. When the mind is clear, the world is clear. When the mind is at peace, life is at peace. When you are tired of life, sometimes it's not that life is too difficult, but that you are looking at it with eyes obscured by the dust of vexations. Just wipe away that layer of dust, and you will see that everything lightens considerably. In the journey of life, everyone experiences periods where they feel pushed into a dead end. Work pressure exhausts you. Unfulfilled relationships break your heart. Family or societal expectations make you feel suffocated. You view life as a continuous series of injustices. But have you ever asked yourself if that suffering is truly as great as what you are feeling? Or is it just because your mind is looking at everything from a dark corner, which makes life feel so tiring? The Buddha taught that suffering or happiness are both created by the mind. When the mind is tired, the world feels tired. When the mind is chaotic, everywhere you look, you see difficulties. When the mind is light, the world immediately lightens. Therefore, sometimes, just by taking one step back, standing at a different vantage point, you will see the scene before you completely change. It's not that life has changed, but that your mind is changing. People often say that no one can change their circumstances immediately, but anyone can change their perspective in just one breath. When you are too stressed, your mind is like a mirror covered with a thick layer of dust. The reflected image becomes distorted. Everywhere you look, you see flaws, annoyances, injustice. But the fault is not with life. It's with the mind's blurry mirror. When people are tired, they often think negatively, exaggerate pain, and imagine non-existent situations. That is a natural reaction of the mind when under pressure, just like when you place an object under disturbed water. You will see a shaky, distorted image. It's not the object that's distorted, but the water's surface that's disturbed. The human mind is the same. When the mind is agitated, everything looks chaotic. When the mind is still, everything is clear. A simple story from daily life can help us understand this better. There was an elderly mother living in a peaceful neighborhood. Every morning, she would open her window and look out at the yard across the street. But each time she looked, she would sigh. She complained that her neighbors lived too messily, hanging clothes haphazardly and leaving belongings scattered. She found it unbearable, and every day her mind was affected by the sight before her eyes. She blamed them for not being neat. She felt the life around her was dirty and disorganized. Until one day, her daughter came to visit. The daughter saw her mother complaining every day, so she walked to the window, looked out, and then turned to her mother and said, "I don't see the neighbor's house as messy as you describe." The mother was surprised and confused. The daughter then gently took a cloth and wiped the window pane. It turned out the glass hadn't been cleaned for too long. Dust had accumulated, making the outside view blurry and gray. When the dust was wiped away, the mother looked out and realized that everything wasn't dirty at all. Everything was still neat and clean, as usual. The only dirt was the layer of dust on the glass that she herself hadn't noticed. This small story holds a big lesson. Many times, life isn't as bad as we think. It's just that our minds are too dusty. Dust of greed, hatred, and delusion. Dust of expectations, dust of fear, dust of pressure and hurt. Dust covers our eyes and makes us see everything negatively. When we wipe away the dust in our minds, the scene before our eyes immediately becomes clear. That is the meaning of the Buddha's teaching, that when the mind changes, the world changes. When we change our perspective, life will take on a different form. When we learn to open our hearts, what we once considered suffering will turn into opportunities for learning. When we know to let go gently, what tired us before will become normal. Therefore, to make life less burdensome, we must first clean the dust from our minds. In the scriptures, the Buddha repeatedly emphasized that the mind is the root of everything. If the root is strong, the tree stands firm. If the root withers, the tree leans. A verse in the Dhammapada states, "Mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is their chief. They are mind-made." This means that all origins of suffering or happiness come from within a person. When you look at life with a kind mind, you will see many beautiful things. When you look at life with a mind of hatred, you will see many frightening things. The Buddha also taught that a person who reflects will never rush to conclusions when their mind is not at peace. Because when the mind is agitated, the world is agitated. When the mind is calm, the world is calm. Changing circumstances is not easy, but changing one's perspective only takes a second of courage and a little peace in the heart. If you pay attention, you will see that many problems in life become heavier simply because we view them from a negative angle. When you face pressure at work, you often think you are incompetent. But if you look from another angle, you will see that it is just a challenge to help you grow. When someone misunderstands you, you think the whole world is against you. But looking from another direction, you will see that it is merely a difference in perception. And everyone has their own limitations. When you fail, you consider it the end. But if you look from the perspective of time, you will realize that today's failure might just be a stepping stone to future success. Many predecessors have experienced this. Entrepreneurs like Warren Buffett have said that challenges help people become wiser. International students alone in a foreign land once cried because they were unfamiliar with the new environment. But looking back, they are grateful for those days because it trained their resilience and courage. Just by changing your perspective, life immediately changes. When your mind is hurt, you will view everyone with defensiveness. When your mind is disappointed, you will view every opportunity with suspicion. When your mind is tired, you will see everything that happens as a burden. But if you allow yourself to take a step back, breathe, and observe, you will realize that many things we consider negative are actually just temporary feelings. Feelings that come and go, thoughts that arise and cease. Nothing lasts forever. Therefore, those who study Buddhism always know to care for their minds before caring for circumstances. They do not force themselves to change the whole world, but gently adjust their perspective. When you look with a clear mind, the world becomes clear. The lesson from the story of the mother and the dirty window reminds us that to make life lighter, we must learn to clean our minds every day. Cleanse by reflecting. Cleanse by deep breathing. Cleanse by letting go of unnecessary things. Cleanse by forgiving others, life, and ourselves. You will see fatigue dissolve, not because circumstances change, but because your mind has changed. Life is not perfect, but within its imperfections, there are always beautiful things for those who choose to see with kind eyes. A light heart sees lightness everywhere. A heavy heart sees sorrow everywhere. When you apply this to life, you will realize that many problems become simple just by changing your perspective. When facing work pressure, instead of blaming yourself, see it as an opportunity to build resilience. When meeting someone who makes you sad, think that perhaps they too are carrying many wounds. When plans don't go as expected, see it as a reminder that life doesn't always follow our will, and the best we can do is adapt. when you feel life is too tiring, try standing from a different angle. Try looking with eyes of gratitude. Instead of focusing on what you don't have, look at what you do have. When you change your perspective, you will see that you still have many things to cherish. Whenever your mind is chaotic, try sitting still. Place your hand on your chest and feel your breath. Close your eyes and imagine that you are wiping away the dust in your mind. Each inhale is an opportunity for your mind to become clearer. Each exhale is an opportunity for vexations to drift away. When you open your eyes, look at life with eyes that have just been cleansed. You will see that everything is still there, but your perception has changed. You will see that your loved ones have never stopped loving you. You will see that the work you have is precious. You will see that today's pressures are actually just gentle lessons. If you learn to accept them with a peaceful mind, life is not as terrifying as we think. The most terrifying thing is simply looking at life with a heart covered in too much dust of vexations. Clean the dust from your mind, and light will naturally pour in. You will see that changing your whole life begins with changing a small perspective. When the mind changes, the world changes. When you lighten up, life also lightens up. When you look at life with compassion instead of judgment, you will see that everyone is trying in their own way. When you look at life with gratitude instead of complaining, you will find yourself luckier than you think. And most importantly, when you look at life from a different angle, you will understand that you have the ability to heal yourself. You don't need to change the whole world. You just need to change your mind. When the mind is at peace, life is at peace. This life has never promised us that everything will always be favorable. From the moment we appear in this impermanent world until we depart, every step carries the imprint of change. What we hold in our hands today might, who knows, become a thing of the past tomorrow. Someone smiling and talking in the morning might face separation by evening. Everything in life flows like water, changing every minute, every second. Therefore, a person who knows how to live freely is not one with few sufferings, but one who does not try to force life to go their way and does not cling tightly to what can no longer be held on to. When we look back, most of the fatigue in our minds does not stem from life being too harsh, but from us holding too many things in our hearts. An old word, an old wound, an old memory. Many people do not live in the present, but live in the obsessions of the past and the anxieties of the future. Then they wonder why their minds grow heavier each day, why every step feels tiring, why long nights are spent tossing and turning sleeplessly. It is because they have not learned a simple yet most important lesson of spiritual life: letting go. Letting go is not easy because humans, by instinct, always like to hold on to what we like, to hold on to what we think we possess, to even hold on to things that hurt us simply because we don't want to admit that they are no longer suitable for us. Many people believe that letting go means losing, so they try to cling, try to grasp, try to bind themselves to things that are past their expiration date. But as the Buddha taught, life is impermanent. All things arise from conditions and dissolve when conditions change. If we keep holding on to things that are meant to be released, how can our minds find peace? When we understand the principle of impermanence, we will see that letting go is not losing. Letting go is a form of growth. Letting go is returning everything to its rightful place. Letting go is allowing the heart to breathe, allowing the soul space for peace to enter. In Buddhist teachings, the root of all suffering is attachment. Attachment means clinging to something with the desire for it to remain by our side forever, unchanging, never dissolving. But the nature of life is change. So, when our minds demand permanence, we will be tired. We will suffer. That is why, in the Four Noble Truths, the cause of suffering is craving, clinging, the mind unwilling to let go. The tighter we hold on to something, the more we are bound by it. We lose our freedom. Our mind is like a bird trapped in a cage of memories and desires. The body lives in the present, but the heart is suspended in the past or future. And that is the greatest tragedy of humanity. Sometimes we think we suffer because of life, because of external circumstances, because of others. But if we look deeply, we will see that what exhausts us most is not those events, but our unwillingness to let go. The person who insulted us spoke for only a few minutes, but we can think about it for years. A relationship that broke up long ago, but we can torment ourselves every night simply because we cannot accept that it has ended. An injustice occurred in the past, but we can replay it in our minds to the point where we hurt ourselves more than initially. The pain itself truly happens only once, but clinging to it makes us hurt ourselves thousands of times over. That is why the Buddha taught that the root of suffering lies not in the event, but in human attachment. There is a very simple story, yet it contains a profound lesson about letting go. It is the familiar story of the glass of water. But each time we hear it, we can see ourselves reflected in it. Imagine a woman in front of you holding a glass of water aloft. If she holds it for only 5 minutes, the glass is fine. Her arm is strong enough to hold it without any difficulty. But if she continues to hold the glass for 10 minutes, a feeling of fatigue begins to appear. Her hand trembles slightly. Her shoulder starts to stiffen. If she still decides to hold the glass for another 20 minutes, her arm will go numb. Her muscles will ache. Her breath will become shallow. The interesting thing is that the glass of water still weighs the same. Its weight has not changed at all. So why does she get more tired the longer she holds it? The reason isn't the glass of water, but the length of time she clings to it. The longer you hold it, the more tired you get. Put it down, and it's immediately light. The pain in a human heart is like that glass of water. By nature, it's not so great that it can destroy our lives. But because we hold on to it for too long, it turns into a burden in life. Perhaps you have at some point wondered why a small matter made you so sad. When someone misunderstood you, when you encountered a small failure at work, when a relationship didn't go as desired. All these are everyday occurrences. They can hurt us a little, but not enough to make us collapse. Yet because we overthink, cling for too long, and repeat them in our minds, a small sadness becomes great suffering. That's when our mental glass of water becomes too much to bear. If we know to put it down, we will be light. But if we keep holding on tightly, we will exhaust ourselves. The Buddha once taught, if something hurts you, put it down. a simple teaching, yet it is a truth for removing all vexations, because no one can hold a hot coal indefinitely and expect their hand not to burn. No one can hold on to painful memories indefinitely and expect their mind to be at peace. Only when we let go do wounds have a chance to heal, and the mind finds space for tranquility. Clinging tightly to something that has hurt us is like gripping a handful of thorns. Thorns cannot release our hands. Only we can choose to let them go. Many people say they want to let go, but don't know how. In reality, letting go is not forgetting immediately, not forcing oneself to be happy, not trying to deceive oneself that nothing ever happened. Letting go is accepting that things have happened, that emotions have existed, that some things cannot be changed. Letting go is looking at the truth with a mind that doesn't resist. Letting go is telling yourself that you cannot redo the past, nor can you control others. You can only choose how to live with yourself. When you are brave enough to accept, you will naturally let go. Letting go is not giving up. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is wisdom. It's like a traveler who knows when to stop to avoid a dangerous rock. It's like a gardener who knows to prune diseased branches so the tree can grow healthy. Letting go is protecting yourself. When we dare to release what does not belong to us, we are opening the door for something better to come. Life sometimes takes something from us to give us an opportunity to find something more suitable. But if we keep clinging to the old, we will not be able to receive the new. Practicing letting go in life is not a distant concept. It begins with very ordinary things. When someone says something that makes us sad, instead of remembering it for a lifetime, we can breathe deeply and realize that perhaps that person is having a bad day. When work encounters problems, instead of blaming ourselves for weeks, we can see it as a lesson for growth. When a relationship comes to an end, instead of suffering indefinitely, we can cherish what has passed and gently move forward. Letting go is a process of self-healing, bit by bit. Sometimes it's slow, but it's real. One of the reasons people find it hard to let go is fear of emptiness. They fear that when they let go of the familiar, they won't know what else to grasp. But emptiness is not something to be feared. Buddhist Dharma teaches that what is empty is truly what is full. When there is space in our hearts, peace can enter. Like a room, if it's filled with old, worn-out belongings, light cannot penetrate. When we clean our minds, tranquility will naturally find its way in. Sometimes we don't need to try to find happiness. Simply creating space for it is enough. Letting go is also an act of self-love. We cannot say we love ourselves if every day we allow ourselves to live in the heaviness of the past. We cannot say we want peace, yet cling to things that no longer belong to us. A person who knows how to love themselves is one who knows when to stop at the right time, who knows to tell themselves, "That's enough. No need to try any harder." They understand that no one can save them but themselves. And the first salvation is learning to release. In the Dhammapada, there is a verse that says, "The mind is like a lake. When not stirred by the wind, it naturally becomes clear." Letting go is stopping the wind in your heart. When we are no longer pulled by negative emotions, our minds will naturally become clear. When the mind is clear, we will see things more clearly, more lightly. We will know what to keep, what to let go of, what to continue, what to stop. That is the wisdom of a person who knows how to let go. Not everyone can achieve it immediately, but anyone can start today. The lesson left by the story of the glass of water is not just a simple image, but a reminder that what exhausts us is not the pain itself, but our unwillingness to put it down. As soon as we put the glass down, we feel light. As soon as we put down sadness, the mind will rest. As soon as we put down grudges, the heart will open. Life continues to flow like water. But those who know how to let go will always be free on their journey. Letting go does not make us lose anything. On the contrary, it helps us find ourselves again. When we are no longer bound by worries, pains, and hurts, we truly live. We live fully in the present. We see the beauty of every moment. We feel the love of life. We are no longer tied to what has passed. We become the freest version of ourselves. And then, when we look back, we will understand that all the things that once hurt us were just necessary lessons for us to grow. Thanks to them, we learned patience. Thanks to them, we learned compassion. Thanks to them, we understood the value of peace. What has passed was not meaningless. They were just stepping stones on the path leading us to inner enlightenment. Letting go is not a journey of a day or a night. It is a whole process. But each small step brings us closer to serenity. Today, we can let go a little. Tomorrow, we let go a little more. Then, one day, we realize our mind is so light that just a breeze is enough to make us smile. When we truly let go, we no longer need to run from the past. We face it with gratitude. And then we understand that what we feared most was precisely what took us furthest. So, if you are tired now, allow yourself to put down the glass in your heart. No one forces you to be strong forever, nor does anyone blame you for moments of weakness. Everyone has limits. When weary, one needs rest. When in pain, one needs solace. When burdened, one needs to release. Let your mind lighten. Give yourself a chance to return to the peace that has always been within you. In this impermanent world, no one can avoid stumbling. Each of us is like a seed in the earth. We must pass through dark days and stormy rains to become a sturdy, green tree. This life has never guaranteed that the path to growth will be strewn with roses. It silently teaches us that to see the light, we must pass through darkness. To know what peace is, we must understand what turbulence is. So, when we face failure, hardship, or undesirable things, it does not mean we are inferior. It simply means that life is giving us a lesson, that only by overcoming it can we become a better version of ourselves. The ancients often said, "Water flowing strongly grinds stones. Smooth, strong winds make trees take deeper root." Everything in this universe grows through hardship. A person is the same. If life is always smooth, without challenges, without encounters, without mistakes, the soul cannot mature. Just as the lotus can only bloom beautifully when it grows from muddy depths. The mud doesn't make the lotus dirty. It only helps the lotus become stronger. Humans are the same. Adversity doesn't make us worse. It only gives us an opportunity to understand ourselves more deeply, to see what is truly important. And it is in our most tired moments that we have the opportunity to rediscover the inherent resilience that has long been within us. In Buddhist teachings, impermanence is a truth we must accept. No success is permanent. No failure lasts forever. Everything is changing every minute, every second. What matters is not what circumstances we are in, but what we learn from those circumstances. Some people, when facing difficulties, blame, complain, and then give up. But others, thanks to difficulties, become stronger, more mature, and more profound. Like two coals, one turns to ash, the other becomes a diamond. Each person has a choice in how they navigate adversity. When we feel tired after a failure, there's nothing wrong with that. It is a very natural human emotion. But what exhausts us is not the failure itself, but our fear. We fear starting over, fear wasting time, fear being judged by others, fear not being able to do it, fear that we are not worthy. Fear turns a small challenge into a tall mountain. Fear distorts how we perceive ourselves. Many people fail once and think their whole life will be that way. But one rain does not define a whole season. One failure does not determine a person's worth. Only when we dare not stand up does failure truly win. According to Lin Buddhist Dharma, the source of suffering when facing failure comes from attachment to the ego. It is the ego that makes us fear being judged, fear being looked down upon, fear not being as good as others. The ego makes us want everything to be perfect immediately, without any mistakes allowed. But life does not operate according to our desires. To grow, we must experience mistakes. To understand life, we must experience failure. No one is born knowing how to walk. No one succeeds on their first attempt. What we see in others is often the result of years of stumbling that we don't see. Therefore, a person who lives mindfully does not avoid failure. They only learn how to rise from failure. They understand that hurt is a part of growth, and challenges are a part of life. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What can I learn from this?" That is a perspective that makes our minds lighter and wiser. When we accept the truth that failure is an inevitable part of the journey, we will no longer be bewildered every time we encounter difficulty. We will know that this is just a path to be traversed, not an end point. There is a very simple story that carries a profound lesson about patience and acceptance. It is the story of a boy and young rice plants. One day, a boy went to the field with his father and saw the entire rice field still low and lush green. He was impatient, thinking that if the rice grew slowly, the harvest would be delayed. So, when his father was away, he ran to the field and pulled up each rice plant, hoping they would grow faster. He did this with all his eagerness, believing he was helping the rice field develop. But the next morning, when the father saw the entire rice field withered, he understood what had happened and explained to the boy that some things in life must grow with time, with wind, with sun, with rain, and with their natural challenges. If you try to rush everything, the only result will be destruction. This story is like the journey of life. Everyone wants quick success. They want to overcome hardships early, want to avoid mistakes. But growth cannot be rushed. A soul that has not experienced cannot deeply understand life. A heart that is never hurt will not know how to love correctly. Just like young rice plants, if they don't endure the sun and rain, they won't become golden, ripe rice. Life sometimes slows us down, makes us stumble, but those are ways for us to take deeper root, become stronger, and grow more steadily. In Buddhist scriptures, there is a saying, "No lotus grows from cleanliness, all grow from mud." The mud here represents the difficulties we face. No one likes mud, but without it, there is no lotus. If we view failure as part of the journey, we will no longer fear it. If we understand that adversity is a lesson, we will embrace it as an opportunity to train our minds. Once the mind is trained, difficulties will no longer make us collapse, but become a foothold for us to stand firmer. The Buddha also taught that when a person faces suffering, what is important is not how much it hurts, but how their mind reacts. If we resist, we will be tired. If we avoid, we will become more fearful. But if we accept and observe, the mind will become peaceful. Acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is seeing the truth as it is. When we perceive difficulties with a calm mind, we will see a way out in the very place we thought was a dead end. Like when a flood comes, if we try to resist, we will be swept away. But if we relax and go with the flow, we will float. When we understand this, we will realize that failure is not an end, but a comma to begin a new chapter. Some people have transformed their lives after a single stumble. Some people have found their true worth after a failure. In history, there are countless successful figures who, after numerous failures, seemed unable to get back up. The famous investor Warren Buffett once said that what made him grow was not his successful ventures, but precisely the mistakes that forced him to reevaluate his decision-making process. Failure makes people more humble, more vigilant, and more knowledgeable. It is a lesson that no classroom can teach. But what makes some people overcome difficulties and some collapse is not the intensity of the challenge, but the willingness to accept. Accept that they were wrong. Accept that they need to learn from scratch. Accept that others may not understand them. Accept that life sometimes doesn't go as planned. When the mind knows how to accept, we no longer resist the truth. And when we don't resist, we feel the strength of inner peace. A person with a peaceful mind will not fear starting over because they know they can move forward. From the story of the young rice plants, we understand that everything in life has its time to ripen. Each season has its produce. Sometimes we need to wait patiently. Sometimes we need to stand firm. Sometimes we need to bravely move forward. But never should we rush. Life does not reward haste. It only rewards patience and diligence. Challenges come not to punish, but to temper. Like a swordsmith who must pass steel through hot fire. Like a blacksmith who must work iron in a forge. The human mind, to become clear, must pass through adversity. When we look at failure with the eyes of Buddhist Dharma, we will see nothing to fear in it. Everyone's path has its turns. Sometimes we go slower than others, but that doesn't mean we are inferior. Some people have to go through more challenges to learn lessons that others don't. Not everyone has the same path. Every difficulty we encounter is helping us become the person we need to become. If we keep comparing ourselves to others' lives, we will forget that we too are progressing every day in our own way. When we accept failure, We have walked halfway to peace. The other half belongs to action. Action here is not blind effort, but mindful action. After each stumble, ask yourself what you have learned. Reevaluate what is truly important. Let go of unnecessary expectations, of standards imposed by others. Renew yourself with a sincere and humble heart. When a person bravely faces failure without fear, they become free. Free from ego, from public pressure, from comparison, from the fear of being judged. And once free, they're stronger than anyone. Failure is the nutrient for growth. Like the mud that helps the lotus grow, mud is not beautiful, but necessary. Adversity can hurt us, but if we know how to use it correctly, it will become good soil for the soul. When we learn to view challenges as a teacher, we will no longer run from them. Each time we overcome a difficulty, it's like we transcend a layer of our own limits. Each time we rise after failure, we prove once again that we are stronger than we thought. Zen Buddhist Dharma hopes that what helps us overcome everything is inner tranquility. The more peaceful the mind, the lighter life becomes. The firmer the mind, the harder the wind shakes it. When failure comes, view it like a rainstorm. The rain will stop, the sun will rise, and the field in our hearts will be greener than before. Believe that no difficulty is meaningless. No challenge is only meant to cause pain. Everything happens for a reason. When we accept where we are, we will find the strength to move forward. So, if you are going through a period of fatigue, gently tell yourself, it's okay. This is just a path that needs to be walked. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be patient. You don't need to be strong all the time. You just need not to give up. When you know how to accept, you will find yourself much more peaceful. Not because life has become easier, but because your mind has become firmer. This life is inherently made of the ceaseless movements of impermanence. Whatever comes will also go. Whatever unites will also disperse. No state exists forever as we wish to hold on to it. When we look deeply into the nature of existence, we will realize that human fatigue largely does not come from grand events, but from the way we think about them. We often embrace too many things in our hearts and unwittingly turn our minds into a cramped room. These thoughts are hard to name. People often say, life is complicated enough. What we need to do is learn to simplify, to live lighter. Yet, this seemingly simple thing is the hardest, because humans are accustomed to piling up worries, accustomed to thinking far, thinking deeply, thinking to the point of exhausting themselves. When we look back at each person's journey, we will see periods when our minds are so tired that we just want to escape the world. That's when we are led too far by emotions. When we always think we have to solve everything, make everything perfect, meticulously manage all relationships, and keep everything under control. We fear losing. We fear making mistakes. We fear upsetting others. We fear not being good enough. These fears combine into an invisible net surrounding the mind, making us constantly live with a heavy feeling. But the Buddha taught that what causes the most suffering to people is not external circumstances, but their own complicated minds. When the mind is chaotic, even small matters become big. When the mind is light, big matters become small. Some people think all night over an unintentional remark. Some people blame themselves for days over a small mistake at work. Others care too much about what others think, making their lives suffocating. The more we dwell on things, the more easily we are hurt. The more we think, the more we lose our inherent peace. Knowing how to simplify is not ignoring life, but knowing how to choose what is worthy of our attention and energy. In Buddhist teachings, there is a very profound lesson. Simplicity is happiness. It's not by chance that the Buddha emphasized this. He understood that the inherent nature of the human mind is full of clarity, but because it embraces too many desires, it becomes disturbed. Modern people often think that complicated life is due to society changing too fast, due to work pressure, due to the grind of earning a living. But the truth is that most fatigue does not come from external factors, but arises from the habit of overcomplicating everything. We want everything to go our way, want to control the future, want to know all the answers, want to avoid all mistakes, want life to always meet our expectations. When something happens differently from our desires, we immediately become confused, fearful, and overthink more than necessary. A person who overthinks gets tired even from small tasks. A person who knows how to let go finds even heavy tasks light. We need to look directly at our own psychology to understand that complexity is just a form of reaction to insecurity. When we are insecure, we think a lot to find ways to control. When we don't believe in karma, we try to manipulate things to get what we want. When we don't accept impermanence, we try to keep everything in an unchanging state. At some point, these thoughts become burdens that prevent us from feeling the simple joys of life. Some people worry so much about the future that they forget to enjoy the present. Others regret the past so much that they dare not move forward. Some people suffer for half their lives because of an unfulfilled relationship. Some people blame themselves to the point of exhaustion over a so small failure. Humans are like that. They create their own confusion and then drown in it. One quiet afternoon, a story is told about a young boy who constantly worried about everything, from unfinished homework to what his friends thought of him, from whether it would rain tomorrow to how he would live when he grew up many years later. The boy carried so many thoughts in his heart that he rarely truly felt happy. One day, seeing his grandson sitting there lost in worry, the old man took out 3 wooden boxes. He placed them in front of the boy and said, "Put all the things that are troubling you into these 3 boxes. The first box is for things you can solve. The second box is for things you cannot solve. The third box is for things that don't belong to you." The boy sat thinking for a long time, then one by one placed each item into its respective box. When he finished, the boy was startled to realize that the first box contained very little, while the second and third boxes were full. The old man smiled and said, "Each person's life is like these 3 boxes. We often spend too much time on things outside our ability or responsibility. We want to worry about everything, but in the end, we only torment ourselves. The things we can solve are actually very few. The majority are just things that, no matter how much we think about them, nothing will change." The lesson in that story makes us realize that people often burden themselves by embracing unnecessary things. Many people care more about others' affairs than their own. Many carry fear of the future, forgetting that the present is all we can truly live. Many hold on to past events as if they determine their worth. But human life is just a journey through impermanence. When we learn to lighten up, life will lighten. When we learn to let go, the mind can breathe. Water is clear when it's not agitated by impurities. The human mind is at peace when it doesn't embrace too many vexations. Didn't the Buddha teach that suffering comes from greed, hatred, and delusion? Too much craving exhausts us. Prolonged anger weighs us down. Delusion and refusal to let go turn life into a burden. All of it stems from our own complicated minds. In the scriptures, there was once a teaching that letting go is not loss, but creating space in the mind for happiness to enter. The simplicity that the Buddha spoke of is not a poor or dull lifestyle. Simplicity is knowing how to focus on what is truly important and letting go of meaningless things. Simplicity is not viewing everything as a burden to carry. Simplicity is not trying to find answers to everything. Simplicity is accepting that some things are beyond our control. The more a person matures, the more they understand that complexity lies not in the world, but within the human heart. When the mind knows how to follow conditions, knows how to accept change, knows how to breathe lightly with life, then all worries will naturally dissipate like clouds after the wind. Someone asked how to live simply amidst a life full of challenges. In truth, simplicity is not a condition of circumstance, but a choice of the mind. When we know that what is past should be let go of, we will no longer dwell on regret. When we know that what cannot be changed should not be resisted, we will no longer waste our energy. When we understand that what does not belong to us should not be grasped, we will no longer bind ourselves in confusion. Life becomes lighter, not because vexations cease, but because we know how to face vexations with tranquility. A simple person is not one who avoids problems, but one who knows how to choose what is worth caring about. Sometimes, life doesn't need us to be strong. Life just needs us to know when to stop, take a deep breath, and ask ourselves if this is truly worth carrying in our hearts. We cannot change the past, but we can choose how to move forward. We cannot know the future, but we can live fully today. We cannot force others to love us, but we can choose to love ourselves. These are all manifestations of simplicity. When we don't force everything to go our way, our minds will not be bound. In daily life, listeners can practice simplicity with very gentle steps. Take a few minutes each day to sit still and observe your thoughts. When a thought arises, ask yourself which box it belongs in. If it's something you can solve, act. If it's something you cannot solve, accept it. If it's something that doesn't belong to you, put it down. When you do this long enough, your mind will form the habit of self-purification, keeping only what is necessary. When the mind is light, life is peaceful. A person who knows how to think just enough is one who can maintain composure even on the stormiest days. Learn to slow down. Learn to eat a meal without a burdened mind. Learn to walk without thinking about tomorrow. Learn to speak words of love when you can, and to be silent when necessary. When the mind is simple, we will realize that happiness is always very near. It's just that our excessive thoughts blind us. Simplicity is like cleaning a room that has long been neglected. When unnecessary things are discarded, what remains is space, allowing us to breathe easily. The mind is the same. If we keep accumulating sorrow, disappointment, expectations, and comparisons, there will be no room for love and peace to exist. Lin Buddhist Dharma has a gentle message. Life does not demand us to be perfect. Life only asks us to be true to ourselves. When you're tired, rest. When you're confused, stop. When you're hurting, give yourself time to heal. And when life feels too heavy, try letting go of one thing in your heart. Sometimes, just by letting go of one right thing, our entire world becomes much brighter. Simplicity is the most beautiful gift we can give ourselves. A person who knows simplicity breathes easily with their mind. A mind that breathes easily will naturally find peace in life. As we step into this impermanent life, everyone will have moments when they feel they are walking through their most weary days. We get caught up in work, in confusion, in unfulfilled dreams, or in unhealed losses. Yet, amidst all this chaos, there is a simple yet profound truth that can sustain us, helping us not lose ourselves. Gratitude. Amidst all the currents of change, when we can still wake up in the morning, still breathe deeply, still see the light, still hear loved ones laughing, still feel the beat of our own heart. All these are precious gifts. Not everyone gets another day to live. Not everyone still has the chance to love. Not everyone still has enough affinity to continue their journey. When we look at life with eyes of appreciation, we will see that the things we have are truly blessings. Someone once said that gratitude is like a bright lamp in the dark night. When the mind is immersed in suffering, when life makes us fall, when long days make us forget the meaning of existence, it is gratitude that helps us find the light again. In Buddhism, gratitude is not just an attitude, but also a practice. Because when we are grateful, our minds become full. When the mind is full, we are less greedy. When we are less greedy, we are less hateful. When we are less hateful, we suffer less. A chain of transformation begins with simple gratitude, but possesses immense power. Many people think that to find peace, they must solve all problems, master circumstances, and achieve this or that. But the truth is much gentler. Sometimes, just by being grateful for the smallest things, the heart will naturally soften. When the heart softens, all sorrows will become less sharp. In Buddhist teachings, ingratitude is considered one of the roots leading to unwholesome karma. Ungrateful people often take everything they have for granted. They forget that behind a bowl of rice is the hardship of the farmer. Behind a home are countless days of labor through rain and sun. Behind their own peaceful smile are countless sacrifices from loved ones. Because they don't recognize the blessings they have, their hearts easily become discontent, prone to anger and delusion, easily feeling deprived. When there is lack in the mind, no matter how abundant external life may be, it never feels enough. Such people only see what they don't have, not what they do have. The more they focus on loss, the more they hurt. The more they strive for what has not yet been achieved, the more they suffer. That is the common psychology of those who have not learned to appreciate. If we look deeply into human psychology, we will see that many sufferings arise not because circumstances are too bad, but because we forget the beautiful things that are still present. Some complain, life is too tiring, work is too stressful, relationships are too chaotic. Yet, in the same circumstances, some people maintain their composure. The difference lies in perspective. When we see the missing part, we will see life as taking from us. When we see the sufficient part, we will see life silently giving us so much. For example, someone works far from home, returning each day to a small rented room, hastily eating dinner, then diving back into work. They think they suffer more than others because they have no one to care for them, no family nearby, no hot meal cooked by their mother. The more they think, the sadder they get. The sadder they get, the more injustice they feel. But if that person paused for a moment and realized that even though they are far away, they still have their health to work, still have hands to earn honest money, still have parents and siblings to return to, then their emotions would immediately change. We often forget that some people don't even have parents to call, no home to return to, no health to work. We often forget that many people wish for the opportunity to work like us, but cannot. Others wish to wake up one morning without pain or illness, but they cannot. When we compare ourselves to those better off, the mind feels lacking. When we look down upon those who suffer more than us, the mind feels grateful. And when grateful, the mind finds peace. There is a story that many have heard, but each retelling still softens our hearts. It is the story of a young man working far from home and his mother's rice bowl. The young man was dutiful, but because life in the city was too rushed, too exhausting, he became bitter and complained about his fate. Day after day, he would wake up early, work until late at night, eat unappetizing food, and sleep poorly. He wondered why his life had so many challenges. One day, utterly exhausted, he sat down and felt tears go swelling up in his eyes. He remembered his childhood years. Every time he came home from school, his mother would always place a hot, white bowl of rice in front of him. His mother's portion was always smaller. She always gave the best part to her child. Sometimes, when there wasn't much food at home, his mother would still let him eat first, while she only drank a bowl of soup. At that time, he was young and accepted it innocently, not knowing that behind his mother's quietness were times she went without food, and nights she stayed up working so her child could be well fed. Now that he was grown, whenever he ate a hurried meal in the city, he suddenly realized that his mother's rice bowl from long ago was the most precious thing he had ever had. That memory softened his heart, and the fatigue in him receded. He knew he was living, growing, walking on his own 2 feet, the same feet his mother had cherished. He was grateful that he had a childhood protected by his mother. He was grateful that he still had the opportunity to work and repay her kindness. He was grateful that even though life was sometimes difficult, he was never abandoned. When gratitude appears, negative things immediately dissipate. His mother's rice bowl was not just a memory, but a reminder that everyone in this life has received someone's sacrifice. We just forget to look back. Buddhism teaches that a grateful person is blessed, because when we are grateful, we do not develop dissatisfaction. When we are not dissatisfied, we create wholesome karma. When wholesome karma accumulates, blessings will naturally come. The Buddha once taught about the 4 great debts of gratitude, including the debt to parents. Parents are the first to plant the seeds of love in us. They never demand material repayment. What they wish for is for us to live kindly, to live ethically. When we are grateful to our parents, we will be grateful for life. When we are grateful for life, we will be grateful for every breath that sustains us. And precisely when the mind is full of gratitude, stillness naturally arises. Stillness is not the absence of storms, but knowing how to anchor the mind to true things. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that those who are grateful and repay gratitude are as rare as fertile soil in a desert. That teaching is not meant to blame people, but to remind us that gratitude is the seed that helps the mind become wholesome. Humans tend to easily forget good things and remember unpleasant things for a very long time. That is an instinct that makes us easily lose peace of mind. To nurture a peaceful mind, we must cultivate the habit of remembering the blessings we have. When we taste sweetness, the mind will appreciate. When we experience hardship, the mind will know what is precious. Each day, just pause for a moment to think about the good things that have come to us, and we will see that life has never been unkind to us. In truth, gratitude is not something grand. Sometimes, just by looking back at the journey we've taken, we will find more to be grateful for than to blame life for. Grateful that we are still healthy. Grateful that we still have loved ones. Grateful that we have been loved. Grateful that we have learned lessons that help us grow. Grateful that we have endured days that seemed insurmountable, but ultimately got through. Grateful that we are not alone in this vast world. When the heart is filled with gratitude, even tiring days become gentler. Someone once said, "Life is only suffering when we demand too much." When we expect others to always understand us, we easily get disappointed. When we expect everything to go our way, we easily get annoyed. When we expect life to be nothing but roses, we easily become discouraged. But when we are grateful for what we have, we no longer demand so much. A mind that knows contentment is a happy mind. A contented person finds peace wherever they go. A grateful person finds everything they encounter precious. The more grateful the mind, the less greed, hatred, and delusion. The less greed, hatred, and delusion, the less suffering. This simplicity creates the power of gratitude. If the listener is going through tiring days, try practicing gratitude with these very gentle steps. When you wake up, place your hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat. Tell yourself that you have another day to live, to love, to correct imperfections. When you eat a meal, think of those who worked hard to produce the rice. When you return home, think of the person who cleaned the house, cooked the meal, or lit a lamp, waiting for you. When you meet a stranger who smiles, be grateful, because that smile has lightened a little of the fatigue in your heart. When you encounter difficulties, be grateful because they help you grow. When things don't go as expected, be grateful because it helps you understand that life doesn't operate according to your own desires. Gratitude is like cool water, irrigating the dry, barren land of the mind. When irrigated long enough, wholesome seeds will take root. A person who lives with gratitude will no longer compare. A person who lives with gratitude will no longer complain about their fate. A person who lives with gratitude will no longer feel deprived. When grateful, we realize we hold more precious things than we imagined. When we look at life with eyes of gratitude, heavy things will lighten. When we look at loved ones with gratitude, we will overlook small faults and retain warmth in the family. When we look at ourselves with gratitude, we will not blame ourselves for too long, will not judge ourselves too harshly. On Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma, there is a message like a warm breath that says, for the mind to be at peace, one must first be grateful. Grateful for life, grateful for others, and grateful for oneself. When the listener cultivates gratitude, life will naturally change. Not because circumstances are different, but because our perception of them is different. A grateful mind is like a lamp lighting up the darkness within. Once that light is lit, fatigue will dissipate, and peace will find its way back. When you sit alone at the end of the day, sometimes you will realize that what makes your mind heavy is not necessarily grand events or violent upheavals, but often just lingering thoughts, emotions not yet named, silent knots like a small thorn in your palm. People often mistakenly think that peace comes from everything in life being smooth, easy, and as desired. But in fact, peace only comes when your mind knows what to keep and what not to cling to. Impermanent life always reminds us that what is here today may change tomorrow. Today there is laughter. Tomorrow there may be tears. Because change is the law of all things, peace cannot come if we cling to things that are inherently fragile and temporary. Only when we know to let go, to distance ourselves from things that can destroy our inner peace, only then will our mind have space to breathe and rest. In the Buddha's teachings, the mind is the root of all actions, of wholesome and unwholesome karma, and of happiness or suffering. A person who knows how to guard their mind like a small flame in the palm of their hand will not get lost, no matter how strong the winds of life. But a person who does not know how to guard their mind, who lets anger, resentment, jealousy, and contention drag them down, will soon self-immolate with fires they themselves have ignited. The Buddha once taught that some things, though small, when nurtured for a long time, will destroy one's peace. Like clear water, just one drop of ink will change the color of the entire jar. The human mind is the same. Just a little hatred, a little competition, a little envy can muddy one's life. Many people wonder why, despite trying so hard, their lives are not peaceful. Why does each day pass with a feeling of dissatisfaction, fatigue, and hurriedness? Why do they not sleep soundly, work joyfully, speak clearly, or eat deliciously? It turns out the root does not lie in circumstances, but in 6 things that the Buddha taught people should avoid for the mind to be light. These 6 things are not profound or difficult to understand, but rather things we unintentionally nurture every day. Do not harbor hatred. Do not hold on to anger. Do not belittle love. Do not wait to enjoy blessings. Do not be stingy when you have money. And do not create bad karma with your words or actions. It sounds simple, but precisely because it is simple, we often forget. People often say they are tired of work, of life, of those around them. But in reality, They are tired of what they carry in their hearts. A person holding hatred cannot sleep soundly. An angry person cannot speak kindly with a calm mind. A person who lives only to compare and compete will never feel enough. A person who only knows to accumulate money, but not to share, will forever live with a feeling of scarcity. A person who ignores love will soon lose important people, and a person who creates bad karma will always face insecurity, because inside them are too many undercurrents of greed, hatred, and delusion. For the mind to be peaceful, one must learn to let go of these things. Years ago, when I met a man in his 50s who always seemed sad and irritable, I asked him why he constantly lived in such a state of fatigue. He replied that life did not grant him peace. But in longer conversation, I realized that he was the one who did not grant himself peace. He envied his slightly wealthier neighbor's success. He harbored grudges from old events that had passed decades ago. He never spoke words of love to his wife and children, but always expected others to understand him. And whenever he lost money or failed, he only blamed life for being unfair. The truth was, he burdened himself with too many unnecessary things. I hope you are not like him. Do not let your youth pass in hatred and your old age end in regret. Psychologically, humans are always prone to habits, nurturing negative things more than positive ones. Like a garden where weeds grow without effort, but beautiful flowers must be cultivated. The human mind is similar. Hatred and competition arise spontaneously when we are hurt, without an invitation. Conversely, love and gratitude must be practiced, cultivated, and reminded to ourselves daily. The difficulty lies in the fact that we often mistakenly believe that others cause our suffering, forgetting that what truly makes us suffer are the emotions we nurture from them. When insulted, we have the right to choose forgiveness or resentment. When compared, we have the right to choose self-effort or envy. When we have money, we have the right to choose to share or to hold tightly. When facing conflict, we have the right to choose kind words or hurtful ones. Each choice creates a direction for our lives. To help you understand this better, Zen Buddhist Dharma wants to tell you the story of a man whom many in the village called the man who always loses. He didn't lose to anyone at work or in society, but he lost to himself. He lived near a neighbor who was a little wealthier than him. When his neighbor bought a new car, he was annoyed and tried to borrow money to buy a similar one. When his neighbor renovated his yard, he followed suit, wanting to make his own yard beautiful so as not to be seen as inferior. When the neighbor bought an expensive set of furniture, he didn't want to be outdone and had to buy one too. He lived in an endless race, a race that no one declared and no one needed to win. Whenever he saw someone new acquire something, a wave of envy would rise in his heart. He spent money, not out of need, but out of fear of being outdone. But then he realized that money doesn't grow on trees. His debts piled up. His family was unhappy, his wife and children insecure because he kept chasing after comparisons, and eventually he was exhausted. Life was like a whirlpool. The more he ran, the more depleted he became. In the end, no one considered him a winner. The only one who lost was him, because his soul was corroded by competition, hatred, and insatiable greed. That story may sound unfamiliar, but it is closer than you think. Because in modern life, many people live like that man. They allow themselves to be drawn into an invisible race, a bigger house, a fancier car, a newer phone, a higher income than others. They think that only by winning against others will they be respected. But they forget that life is not a competition. The most important thing to conquer is oneself, the selfish ego, insatiable greed, and envy that makes one sleepless every night. If we don't realize this, we will forever live with a sense of deprivation, no matter how much money or material possessions we have. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. That is an eternal truth. The Buddha taught that one who lives with greed, hatred, and delusion will cause their life to be enveloped in darkness. But one who cultivates a mind of loving kindness and compassion will see light on the path ahead. The Buddha also taught people not to wait until loss to appreciate. Don't wait until old age to live kindly. Don't wait until health is gone to realize how precious peace is. These words may sound light, but they are profoundly deep. They remind us that peace does not come from accumulating a lot, but from letting go of the things that hurt our minds. Looking back at the 6 things the Buddha taught us not to do to maintain inner peace, we see that each one is a mirror reflecting ourselves. When we know to stop before anger, to smile instead of resenting, to love instead of belittling, to share when we have the means, to live kindly instead of creating bad karma, we open a space in our minds for peace. Peace is not something someone gives us, but something we sow ourselves. Whoever sows wholesome seeds will reap wholesome fruit. Whoever sows hatred will reap suffering. That is the law of karma that no one can escape. When you take the lesson from this teaching, you will understand that competing with others is the quickest way to lose to yourself. A person obsessed with winning will never have enough. A stingy person will never feel the joy of sharing. A person who waits for happiness to arrive before enjoying it will forever live in wasted time. A person who takes love lightly will eventually feel lost in life. A person who lets anger reign will make their mind like a house always filled with smoke. And a person who harbors hatred will be like someone drinking poison, but hoping someone else dies. Everything the Buddha taught makes us look back and see that peace is not far away. It's just that we ourselves make it seem distant. Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma wants to convey to you: give yourself an opportunity to live lighter by training your mind every day. When you are mindful of the emotions that arise in your heart, you will know which emotions to keep and which to release. You cannot stop the wind from blowing, but you can learn to shelter the flame of peace within your heart so it doesn't go out. Practice speaking kindly, even if others are not kind. Practice smiling, even if life sometimes doesn't go your way. Practice looking at the bright side of every story instead of focusing on the dark side. Practice sharing a little of what you have to see that life is never without joy. And more importantly, practice stopping, taking a deep breath to see more clearly that this life is enough. As long as we don't let those 6 things blind our eyes and weigh down our hearts, your tomorrow can start completely differently. If today you know to turn inward and ask yourself, what is making my mind restless? When you realize it, you have already won. Peace is not far. You just need to know how to cherish your mind. There are evenings when you sit alone by the window and suddenly realize that in this life, there is a friend you have forgotten to love for many years, yourself. From a young age, we are accustomed to living to please others. Growing up, we get caught up in work, family, and societal standards. We often try to be better in everyone's eyes, forgetting that the most important thing is not what someone else thinks of us, but whether we accept ourselves. Impermanent life is always changing. Everything outside us changes with time. There is only one thing that stays with us from birth until we close our eyes: ourselves. Yet, throughout that long journey, many people treat themselves more harshly than anyone else. Some blame themselves for things that weren't their fault. Some dismiss their own pain, thinking they don't deserve to be weak. Some compare themselves to perfect images created by society and conclude they're not good enough. Some hide their true emotions, their sadness, even their fatigue, when just a hug, a gentle look from themselves would be enough to heal. In the Buddha's teachings, self-love is not selfishness, but the foundation of spiritual practice. If your mind is full of wounds, how can you offer love to the world? If you don't know how to care for yourself, how can you properly care for others? The Buddha once said that in this vast universe, no one deserves more love than oneself. That statement is not to foster arrogance, but to remind us that we too are sentient beings who need care, protection, empathy, and love. The one who knows how to look inward and embrace their own weaknesses is the one with the strongest foundation to live amidst life's many changes. Many people suffer because they don't know what self-love is. They think self-love is indulgence, giving in, doing whatever one wants. But no, self-love in the spirit of Buddhist Dharma is knowing how to treat oneself kindly, knowing when the mind is exhausted, knowing when to stop when sadness is too great, knowing how to forgive past mistakes, knowing not to use harsh words to hurt oneself. That is a long process of recognition, acceptance, and transformation, not a single act. The Buddha taught that a mind of loving kindness must first be sown for oneself. For if a tree has no root, how can it stand firm? Humans tend to treat themselves more harshly than anyone else. When others make mistakes, we might forgive. When others fail, we might offer encouragement. But when we stumble, we only know to blame, torment, and hurt ourselves. This is a common psychology among those who constantly carry the pressure of perfection. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever looked in the mirror and only seen your flaws? Have you ever thought you weren't worthy of love or happiness? Have you ever compared yourself to others and then been disappointed with yourself? If so, you are not alone. Most modern people grow up with countless standards that make them gradually forget that everyone has their own unique worth. The healing journey begins with looking directly at yourself, facing the very weaknesses you once wanted to hide. Weakness is not a fault. Crying is not wrong. Fatigue is not failure. Humans have certain limitations. Even great wisdom figures in history experienced fear, confusion, and moments of instability. The important thing is that they learned to accept and move forward instead of blaming themselves for those emotions. To help you visualize, I want to tell you the story of a young woman who longed to be confident and radiant like everyone else. From childhood, she lived in a small room with an old, crooked mirror on the wall. The mirror was distorted by time, making her reflection never truly match her actual appearance. Every time she looked in the mirror, she saw herself as ugly, thin, clumsy, and not good enough. For many years, she believed she was inferior, believed no one could ever love someone like her. She rejected marriage proposals because she thought they were mistaken. She refused to travel, refused to take photos, refused opportunities to stand before crowds, fearing people would see the imperfections she imagined. One day, when she moved into a new house, she bought a new mirror for her room. When she looked in the mirror, she couldn't believe her eyes. It turned out she wasn't as ugly as the image in the distorted mirror. The new mirror showed her a girl with gentle eyes, a balanced face, a warm smile. For the first time in years, she saw herself completely, and she burst into tears, not from joy, but from immense compassion for herself. She realized that for all those years, she had used a distorted mirror to judge herself. She saw herself through false standards and created unnecessary pain for herself. That story is like the journey of many people. They don't use a real mirror, but use the mirror of criticism, of sad memories, of judgmental eyes to see themselves. Some use the mirror of the past to determine their future worth. Some use the mirror of social media to judge their appearance. Some use the mirror of fake perfection to conclude that they are not good enough. All those mirrors are distorted. They make you see yourself incorrectly. And the biggest mistake is not the distorted mirror, but the fact that you believe in it. When we look at ourselves in the wrong mirror, we forget that we too are human beings, worthy of love, respect, and healing. From a Buddhist perspective, the nature of a person is inherently clear, like a lake before the wind stirs it. All hatred, low self-esteem, complexes, or pain are merely temporary layers of dust that obscure that clarity. When we know to look back and accept ourselves as we are, those layers of dust will gradually fall away, allowing the mind to return to its pure state. The Buddha once taught that no one can save you but yourself. The one who can lift you up is also you, and the one who can cause you suffering is also you. That means the source of peace lies within you, not in others. Loving yourself is not a luxury choice, but a necessary condition to move forward lightly. In this world, you can offer someone else a hug, but don't forget to hug yourself on tiring days. You can understand the suffering of others, but also extend that same compassion to your own heart. Remember that all healing begins right where you stand. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love. You just need to be real, to be sincere, and to know that a person's worth is not in external standards. When you dare to look at your own weakness, you are taking the first step on the journey of growth. And when you dare to forgive yourself, you are opening a new door for yourself. From the Buddha's teachings, we can draw a lesson that life doesn't need more perfect people. It just needs more people who know how to live kindly, first and foremost to themselves. When we love ourselves, we will no longer be swayed by critical eyes. When we accept ourselves, we will no longer place our lives in the hands of others. When we know how to respect our true emotions, we will no longer fear facing ourselves. When we give ourselves time to recover, we will understand that all pain will eventually lighten. You deserve peaceful days. You deserve to breathe lightly without carrying worries on your shoulders. You deserve to be loved, even if you are not always perfect. And you deserve to live a life true to your own heart. What I wish to convey is this: treat yourself like a very close friend. Speak gently to yourself whenever you make a mistake. Allow yourself to rest when you are overloaded. Let yourself cry when you hurt. Rejoice when you are happy. And be at peace when your mind is weary enough. When you learn to slow down and listen to your inner voice, you will realize that your inner self has much more strength than you think. That very strength will guide you through all the storms out there. The life of each of us is inherently in constant motion and change every moment. There are days when we feel strong enough to face all challenges. But there are also days when just an unintentional remark, a small thing that doesn't go our way, or a sadness not yet named, is enough to make our minds heavy. People often think that difficulties come from external circumstances, but in reality, what exhausts us most are the undercurrents swirling within our own minds. The Buddha taught about impermanence to remind us that all emotions will eventually pass. All storms will gradually subside. Like the sky, no matter how dark the clouds, behind them is always a clear blue expanse that never disappears. It's just that when our minds are troubled, we look at the world with eyes obscured by our own worries and fears. Humans easily forget this truth, so when they are tired, they often seek a place to escape. Some choose to sleep a lot, some throw themselves into work, some seek temporary pleasures to cover up their emotions. But the more we escape, the greater the fatigue, just like when we try to push a ball underwater. The harder we push, the stronger it bounces back. And then, at some point, when we can no longer bear it, we sigh and wonder why life is so hard. The Buddha once said that suffering does not lie in circumstances, but in how we face those circumstances. If the mind is at peace, even storms are just fleeting breezes. But if the mind is chaotic, even a gentle breeze becomes a tempest. That is why, in Buddhist teachings, mindfulness is considered the key that opens the door to peace. Many people, upon hearing the words mindfulness, immediately think that it is something profound, a practice reserved for monastics. A difficult practice, not for those busy with studies, work, and responsibilities. But in reality, mindfulness is much closer than we think. Mindfulness is simply knowing what you are doing, what you are feeling, and how you are living in the present moment. When you know you are inhaling, that is mindfulness. When you know you are exhaling, that is mindfulness. When you realize you are sad and don't try to deny it, that is mindfulness. When you know your body is tired and don't force yourself to push harder, that is also mindfulness. Mindfulness doesn't create anything new. It just helps us return to clearly see what is present within ourselves. In modern life, everyone carries a long to-do list in their hearts. We are always taught to strive, to move forward, to succeed, and to be better than yesterday. Few teach us how to stop, to breathe, and to listen to ourselves. That is why many people get more tired the more they run, the more they strive, the more empty they feel, as if caught in a never-ending cycle. When the mind is scattered, the breath becomes heavy. We easily lose patience, get angry, become sad, and lose ourselves. Many people don't realize that just 1 minute of correct breathing will calm the mind like a still lake. In the moment the breath returns to its rhythm, the entire life becomes lighter. Buddhist philosophy places special emphasis on breath, because breath is the thread connecting body and mind. The body can be busy, and the mind can be chaotic, but the breath is always honest. When we are happy, the breath naturally feels comfortable. When we are sad, the breath becomes heavy. When we are worried, the breath is short and rapid. When we are afraid, the breath feels constricted. Understanding breath means understanding oneself. The Buddha said that whoever masters their breath masters their mind. Whoever masters their mind masters their life. This is not a symbolic teaching, but a very practical truth that anyone can experience for themselves. Many people ask why the more they try to solve problems, the more entangled they become. This is because when the mind is agitated, all thoughts are rushed. It's like trying to clearly see an object reflected in a bowl of muddy water. The more you stir the water, the murkier it becomes, and the image becomes more distorted. The human mind is similar. When panicked, we often want to immediately find answers, want to know what to do right away, want to solve everything quickly. But it is this impatience that makes the mind even more confused. Only by stopping and breathing slowly does the mind have a chance to settle. At this point, I want to tell you the story of the muddy water. A simple story, yet it contains a profound lesson about mindfulness and the stillness of the soul. There was a young man who often sought out the village Zen master, complaining about life. He said his mind was always tense, his heart always restless. And the more he tried to think, the more he felt stuck. One day, as the young man began to recount his troubles, the Zen master brought out a bowl of clear water, then stirred it vigorously with a spoon. The once clear water suddenly became murky. The Zen master put down the spoon and asked the young man if he could see anything in the bowl of water. The young man replied that he couldn't see anything because the water was too cloudy. The Zen master simply smiled, placed the bowl on the table, and said nothing more. A moment later, the water in the bowl slowly settled. The tiny specks of dust sank to the bottom, and the surface became clear again. At this point, the Zen master said, "The human mind is like that bowl of water. When emotions are stirred, or we try to force things, the answers become blurry when the mind is troubled. But if you know to stop, to breathe slowly, to observe emotions without resistance, the mind will naturally settle. At that time, you will clearly see the problem and know which direction to go." Hearing the story, the young man realized that he had been too hasty all along. He always tried to find solutions when his mind wasn't ready, like trying to look to the bottom of the bowl of water while the water was still cloudy. This story reveals something very important to us. Peace is not about trying to create perfection, but about knowing how to calm the mind at the right time. The breath is the bridge that helps us return to that stillness. Just 1 minute of deep inhalation and slow exhalation, and we can already feel the mind settling. That 1 minute can sometimes be more valuable than hours spent in chaotic thought. That 1 minute can also help us avoid many wrong decisions made in anger. That 1 minute can help us see more clearly what we have long overlooked. The Buddha once taught that if the mind is like a still pond, the water will perfectly reflect the entire sky. When the mind is still, wisdom naturally arises. When wisdom is clear, everything becomes easy to understand. That is why mindfulness is always considered the foundation of all practices. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha taught 4 domains of mindfulness: body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. Lay practitioners do not necessarily need to master all these domains immediately. They can simply start with the breath. When you know you are inhaling, that is mindfulness of the body. When you know feelings are arising, that is mindfulness of feelings. When you observe your mind being happy or sad, that is mindfulness of the mind. And when you clearly know that these states arise from conditions and do not last forever, that is mindfulness of phenomena. Just one small step like this is enough to help us reduce many vexations. Every time the mind is restless, just bring attention to the breath, and we immediately return to the present. Every time we worry, just breathe slowly and consciously, and we immediately reduce pressure. Every time we get angry, just shift attention to the breath, and we will prevent ourselves from saying inappropriate words and performing actions we might later regret. Many people think that mindfulness means being still in a meditation hall, but in reality, we can practice it anywhere. When washing dishes, and knowing that you are washing dishes, that is mindfulness. When walking and clearly feeling each step you take, that is mindfulness. When eating and clearly knowing the taste and sensation of each bite, that is mindfulness. When working and noticing the tension in your shoulders and relaxing it, that is also mindfulness. Life becomes lighter, not because vexations decrease, but because our minds are clear enough not to be swept away by vexations. In the scriptures, there is a verse I really like. The Buddha taught that one conscious breath is more valuable than 1,000 mindless chants. Because when we truly breathe, we are living with ourselves. When we know we are breathing, we are touching the truth of the present. A person can live their whole life without truly living, because their mind is always running to the past or anticipating the future. But just 1 second of returning to the breath, that person has stepped into true life. You can try it right now. Inhale deeply, then exhale very gently. Just feel. Don't judge. All worries are still there, but they no longer have enough weight to sweep your mind away. You are simply the observer. In that moment, you realize that worries are often just clouds, and you are the vast sky. The sky is never permanently covered by clouds. The lesson of the muddy water reminds us that the more we resist emotions, the more tired we become. But when we accept and allow the mind to settle, clarity naturally appears. The breath is the broom that sweeps away the dust in the mind. Each time we breathe a little deeper, we clean away a little worry. Each time we breathe a little slower, we release some pressure. Each time we return to the breath, we return to ourselves. And once we have returned, we realize that life is not as difficult as we thought. In real life, there are many stories that demonstrate the power of breath. I once knew a friend who used to worry excessively about work. Just an email from a superior would make her heart pound. A sudden meeting would stress her out all day. Until one time, she went through a small incident. She realized that she had lived too long in a state of high tension and had forgotten how to breathe properly. From then on, she began to practice mindfulness with very simple exercises. Every morning, she would sit still for 3 minutes to feel her breath. Every afternoon, when she felt tired, she would take a minute to place her hand on her chest and breathe. After a few months, her temperament changed remarkably, not because work became less stressful, but because her mind learned how to create inner peace for itself. When the mind is steady, circumstances also become easier. Perhaps you, too, have had moments when you were so tired that you just wanted to escape somewhere far away. But in reality, the place you need to find is not another city or a long trip. What you need is a pause to listen to your breath and listen to yourself. That is the most important homecoming in life. The Buddha once taught that when the breath ceases, everything ends. This means that breath is the most precious gift of human life. We often take life for granted, but each breath is an opportunity to start over. Each breath is a reminder that we can still change, still live better, still let go of unnecessary things, and cherish what we have. When we remember that, we naturally feel more grateful, calmer, and gentler with ourselves. There is a saying by a Zen patriarch that I deeply appreciate. To extinguish the flame of anger, one must first calm the breath. When the breath is tranquil, the mind is tranquil. When the mind is tranquil, clear wisdom arises. When clear wisdom arises, all troubles gradually dissipate. This is not theory, but real experience. You can verify it in any situation. Even when you are feeling disappointed, just recognizing that you are breathing immediately reduces the tension by half. So, how can we apply mindfulness to daily life? First, grant yourself a few moments of stillness each day. Not much, just 1 or 2 minutes. When you wake up, don't rush to grab your phone. Place your hand on your abdomen and feel your breath. When you go to sleep, breathe slowly and allow your mind to return to your body. When you are overworked, pause for a moment to relax your shoulders and breathe deeply. When you are sad, ask yourself a very gentle question. What is my mind sad about? When you are angry, look at your breath to prevent that flame from burning too high. When you are scared, breathe very slowly to remind your body that you are still safe. And when you are happy, fully experience that joy, for it too is a precious moment. You don't need to be a perfect person to practice mindfulness. You just need to be a person who is breathing consciously. Each day, just a little awareness, and the mind will gradually become lighter. Peace does not come from outside, but from the ability to clearly see your mind and master your breath. Mindfulness does not demand you to change your life, but only asks you to return to yourself in every moment. When life is too tiring, remember that there is a place you can always return to: your breath. No one can take your breath away while you are still alive. It is the safest, simplest, and most powerful refuge. A grateful breath can heal a long, tiring day. A calm breath can resolve an outburst of anger. A deep breath can help you stand firm amidst pressures that seem insurmountable. And I want to send you a gentle reminder. You don't need to be strong all the time. Just knowing how to breathe is enough. When you know how to breathe correctly, you will know how to live correctly. When you know how to live correctly, you will know how to love yourself and love life. Mindfulness doesn't make life less challenging, but it helps you have enough peace to navigate those challenges with a clearer and firmer soul. If today you feel tired, place your hand on your chest and take a deep breath. That breath is a gift you give yourself. That breath is support, a reminder that you are still here, can still start over, can still live lighter whenever you want. The mind is like a bowl of water. Just leave it still, and the water will clear. Just breathe, and the mind will become clear. And when the mind is clear, no matter how many challenges life brings, they cannot make you fall. There are moments in life when we realize that life is inherently fragile and constantly changing. Everything eventually returns to stillness, as if nothing ever happened. The ancients said that human life is like a breath that just arrives and then leaves, just has and then loses. From the moment we first cried at birth, we stepped into the current of impermanence. Nothing can be held forever, nor does any pain last eternally. When we understand that, we feel lighter about the fatigue we carry. Because this life does not come to punish us, but to teach us how to let go, how to live, how to grow through every change. People are tired, not because they have traveled too far, but because they carry too many unnecessary things. The mind is tired, not because life is harsh, but because we stubbornly cling to things that are meant to depart. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment, because when we cling to the ego, cling to success and failure, cling to likes and dislikes, we unwittingly bind ourselves in a spiral of pain. When the mind keeps repeating questions like, why is my life like this? Why do I try but still don't get what I want? Why don't the people I love understand me? The mind becomes heavier and heavier. In truth, the problem is not in the external world, but in our mind's refusal to let go of things that are meant to leave. In Buddhist Dharma, fatigue is not just a physical sensation of tension, but also the depletion of the mind. When we live too much in the past and future, when the body sits in the present, but the mind races to what has passed or worries about what is yet to come, we lose ourselves. The Buddha taught that the human mind is like water. When stirred, the water is cloudy and cannot reflect anything. When it settles, everything becomes clear. To find peace of mind, we must allow the mind to pause for a moment. To get rid of fatigue, we must return to ourselves, not to escape, but to rest. In fact, most human fatigue comes from neglecting our own minds. We take care of work, family, and the future, but ignore our own hurting hearts. We think if we just try a little harder, it will be okay. We think if we try harder, the feeling of fatigue will disappear. But the more we try, the more exhausted we become. The mind is like a door. If we keep it tightly closed for fear of being hurt, fresh air cannot enter. What we need is not to be stronger, but to know when to stop to breathe, to look deeply within ourselves and to ask a very simple question. Have I gone too far from my own peace? When you are ready, close your eyes for a moment. This is not a ritual or a difficult mental exercise, just a moment for yourself. Inhale deeply to know that you are still alive. Exhale slowly to know that you are letting go of what weighs on your heart. Then whisper to yourself that you are here, you are safe, and you are returning to yourself. Feel the breath entering your body like cool water flowing through the weary places in your mind. Feel the breath leaving, carrying away each subtle sorrow. Each inhale is a moment of life. Each exhale is a moment of letting go. Gently, without forcing yourself to be awake, without forcing yourself to be at peace, simply breathing and being aware. As you feel your breath more clearly, you will notice your body softening, your shoulders relaxing, your chest lightening, your mind no longer tensing to fight life. The stresses accumulated over days, months, sometimes years, begin to loosen little by little, like a rope pulled taut for too long, finally being laid down, like a bird, after many tiring days of flight, returning to its nest. Your mind is returning. Your body is healing. Let all sorrows be carried away by your breath. Do not cling. Do not analyze. The breath knows where to go to restore your original peace. In this moment of stillness, I want to tell you a story. The story is called The Falling Leaf. There was a woman who, every evening, would sit under the tree in front of her house to breathe and look at the sky. Every day, she was busy with work, pressure, family, caught up in unnamed things that made her mind as heavy as a stone. One evening, as she was breathing, a yellow leaf fell right before her eyes. The leaf didn't rush, nor did it resist. It just gently spun down and lay on the ground. She looked up at the branch. It turned out that after many days of wind, sun, and rain, it was time for that leaf to release from the branch. And when it felt no pain, no regret. It simply returned to where it belonged. The woman looked at the leaf for a long time and realized something. For all those years, she was tired because she tried to cling to everything, clinging to unfulfilled expectations, clinging to relationships that had fractured, clinging even to old sorrows that had passed. She thought letting go meant losing. She feared letting go because she feared she would become empty. But when she saw the falling leaf, she understood that letting go is not losing, but returning to oneself. Just as the leaf returns to the earth to nourish the tree, humans also need to return to their minds, to heal their wounds. That day, she took a deep breath and told herself that it was time for her to let go of the things that were making her tired. That story is like a simple yet profound Dharma talk. The Buddha once said that all phenomena are impermanent. Everything comes and goes according to conditions. When conditions are sufficient, they unite. When conditions cease, they disperse. When we cling to something that no longer belongs to us, we only embrace suffering. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha taught that a mind that knows how to let go is a mind that knows how to live freely. Not free from circumstances, but free from the bonds within the heart. When the mind is light, life naturally becomes light. When the mind is expansive, and the world naturally becomes expansive. When the mind is at peace, All changes are merely like wind passing by. The lesson of the falling leaf is not in when it fell, but in its attitude when leaving the branch. It did not resist nature. It did not cling to what was past. It did not blame the wind, did not blame the sky. It simply smiled at its journey. The leaf fell to continue a new cycle, and humans let go to open a journey of healing for the mind. Let go of excessive self-expectations. Let go of sorrows that no longer have value. Let go of people who are no longer companions. Let go of the pressures we place on ourselves. Let go to live again. And right now, as you are breathing, try to imagine all your fatigue is like that yellow leaf. They have clung to you for too long. They have made your mind hardened and heavy. But as you exhale, you can allow them to leave you. No need to rush, no need to force. Just gently, like the falling leaf. You can tell yourself that you are enough. You have tried very hard, and you deserve to be at peace. No one else can give you that, but you. Let your breath guide you back to primeval stillness. Feel each stream of emotion settling. Let your mind open, like a door for lightness to enter. When you know how to return to your breath, you are returning to the Buddha within yourself. When you know how to let go of what hurts you, you are planting a seed of peace for the future. When you know how to love yourself, you are giving back to life the most beautiful heart. Life will still have storms. But when your mind has been nourished by stillness, you will no longer be swept away. You will stand firm even when the winds are strong. You will smile even on gloomy days. You will understand that all fatigue is merely a passerby, while peace is where you truly belong. Now you can open your eyes or keep them closed as you wish. The important thing is that you have taken a very big step to return to yourself. From today, just spend a few minutes each evening breathing, quieting your mind, and letting go, and you will find life much lighter. And when you are tired, remember the falling leaf. It didn't let go out of weakness, but because it was time. And you, too, can let go to live a more peaceful life. When we quietly look back at the flow of human life, we realize that all the things we once longed for, strived to chase, and considered grand goals, ultimately are just fleeting moments that will pass. Every success will eventually be replaced by a new desire. Every sorrow will fade with the years. Everyone is moving endlessly. But few stop to ask themselves why they are going and whether they are truly living. Human life is woven from continuously flowing moments. And when we are engrossed in chasing a distant destination, we often forget the impermanent nature of this life. The journey is where we live most of our lives. The destination is sometimes just a fleeting moment. Yet people often miss the simple things right before their eyes. There are times we think that after finishing work, we will live more comfortably. After having a house, a car, money, a position, we will be happier. After overcoming a certain milestone, we will find peace. But as the years quietly pass, we realize that each time we achieve one thing, we set another goal. And so we run, running endlessly. It turns out we are not tired because the road is long, but because our minds constantly demand to arrive quickly at a place we ourselves don't even know. The Buddha taught that there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. This means that happiness is not at the end of the journey, but in each step we place on the ground. Right now, when we look deeply into the nature of suffering, according to the Four Noble Truths, we will see that the reason we are unhappy lies in craving and attachment. We always want more, want faster, want better, want to be more complete. We set an ideal model for life and force ourselves to achieve it. But life is not perfect. Humans are not perfect. Everything is in a state of change. When we place happiness in the future, we unwittingly lose the good things happening in the present. We turn life into a tiring race without knowing what we are losing. There's something very interesting in human psychology. When we face a small joy, we often see it as normal. When we have a full meal, we consider it a given. When we are healthy, we think it's natural. But only when we lose these things do we realize that happiness was once very near. That is why the Buddha taught that all suffering arises from a mind that is not content. The more the mind craves, the more it chases distant things, the more exhausted it becomes. The more the mind settles, the more it appreciates what is present, the more peace it finds. Modern life makes many people impatient. Young people want quick success. Working adults want to get rich quickly. Lovers want to settle down quickly. Those who fail want to overcome it quickly. It is this impatience that tires our minds, because nothing in life can mature overnight. Seeds need time to sprout. Hearts need time to heal. Life needs time to respond to our efforts, but our minds refuse to wait. When expectations are too great, but reality has not yet caught up, we fall into disappointment and think we are unhappy. The truth is that happiness is still there. It's just that we don't see it because our minds are looking too far away. I want to tell you a very ordinary story about a young man. One morning, he had an important appointment. He rushed to the bus stop and boarded a bus he thought would get him there fastest. But after just a few minutes, he discovered that the bus was moving very slowly. It stopped at many stations, picking up and dropping off passengers, then slowly continued. Initially, he was annoyed. He kept checking his watch, muttering complaints about the bus, the driver, and even himself for not choosing another ride. His mind was filled with impatience and discomfort. But then, as he sat waiting for the bus to move, his gaze suddenly settled on the scenery outside the window. Trees were gently swaying in the wind. Early morning sunlight pierced through the leaves, creating a beautiful streak of light. An old woman was sitting selling vegetables on the sidewalk with a gentle smile. Children held hands, running and laughing. There were ordinary moments he had never seen because he was always rushing. He realized that if this bus had gone as fast as he wished, he would probably have continued leaning forward, eyes glued to his watch, his mind preoccupied with the destination. It was because the bus was slow that he had the chance to look at the world around him and realize that life still held many precious things. For the first time, he felt the cool wind on his cheek. For the first time, he saw the slow, peaceful rhythm of life. For the first time, he knew that sometimes slowing down is precisely what helps us truly live. When the bus had traveled quite a distance, he suddenly smiled, not because he had reached his destination, but because he realized that happiness was not in the place he was going, but right in the moment he was sitting there, watching the scenery pass by. This story seems simple, but contains a great lesson. Life is not just about the destination. Happiness lies in every step of the journey we are taking. The Buddha once said that the human mind is like a monkey swinging through branches. It always leaps from one thought to another, never standing still. When we get caught up in that stream of thoughts, we live in the past or future and forget that the present is life itself. If we place happiness in what we have not yet achieved, we will run our whole lives and never feel enough. Conversely, if we realize that each breath is a gift, each day is a segment of the road, each moment is a flower of life, we will find our hearts much lighter. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that a peaceful mind is happiness. Happiness is not something we seek externally, but an aware recognition in every moment. A person who knows how to live happily is one who knows how to stop, how to breathe, how to cherish the present moment. No matter how busy life is, no matter what imperfections remain in our hearts, we still have the right to feel happiness in every step, every sip of water we drink, every look we give. From the story of the slow bus, we can see that sometimes life intentionally slows down to allow us to see things we have long overlooked. There are things we don't see because we go too fast. There are opportunities we don't recognize because our minds are too impatient. There are people who truly love us, but we don't feel it because we are always chasing what is yet to come. When we slow down, we see more clearly. When we breathe deeply, we understand ourselves better. When we keep our minds at peace, life naturally follows suit. If you are feeling that life is too tiring, try something very gentle. Don't wait for suffering to end to live. Don't wait to have enough to be happy. Don't wait to be perfect to smile. True happiness doesn't demand you to have everything. It only demands that you cherish what is present. A warm glass of water in the morning, a text message checking in from an old friend, an evening home without too many worries, a moment when you place your hand on your chest and feel your heart still beating. Just that is enough for a happy day. If you want to apply this lesson to your life, try starting with small things. When you drink water, truly drink. When you eat rice, truly eat. When you walk, pay attention to each step you take. When you talk to someone, listen with all your heart. When you do something, do it fully, without rushing. Then you will see that happiness is not far away. It is right in the way you live. When your mind is at peace, your heart is light. Happiness naturally blossoms like a flower. And remember that life is not a race. No one forces you to go faster than others. No one forces you to be perfect. Everyone has their own rhythm of life. Allow yourself to slow down a little, to feel more. Happiness is not in the future, not in the past, but right now, in this moment, where you are present. Life always has moments that make people feel so tired they want to disappear. That's not a feeling of weakness or giving up, but simply a very real manifestation of a soul struggling to bear too much pressure. The Buddha once taught that everyone must experience birth, old age, sickness, and death. And the impermanent movements of life cause us to have days when we stand before a mirror and don't recognize ourselves. Each person has a segment of life's path where they feel as if they are walking in darkness, seeing no way out. But the light is not outside. The light is within our own minds. When the mind is clear, circumstances are clear. When the mind is at peace, life naturally becomes lighter. There are nights you toss and turn sleeplessly, not because the bed is uncomfortable or the room is too cold, but because your mind is filled with chaotic thoughts. You think about an unarrived future, about a past that cannot be changed, about things that hurt you, about things you want but don't yet have. You think about people who have hurt you and all the things you regret but cannot mend. Your mind is like a disturbed body of water. The more you try to make it settle, the more layers of cloudy sediment rise. What's more, you have to face all of this in silence, while the whole world is asleep. People only see your smile, the strong gaze you present to them. But no one sees the times you shed tears in the dark. No one hears the sighs you try to suppress at night. No one can imagine how tired you are. But Buddhist Dharma always reminds us that within each person there is a silent strength greater than the very pains they have experienced. You are much stronger than you think. Like Vietnamese bamboo, soft in the wind, yet its roots run deep into the earth. People see the fragility of bamboo, but don't see the persistent vitality beneath. You are the same. Even if you feel shaky, there always exists within you a persistent strength that allows you to rise again after countless falls. You have overcome many things that, when they happened, you thought you couldn't endure. Yet, you are still here today. That proves you are not weak or helpless as you still think. Sufficiency in life is not measured only by money or external things. Sufficiency is when your mind recognizes what you have, appreciates the people around you. Sufficiency is when you realize that even on the most desperate days, you still have a breath to start over. The Buddha said that every breath is an invaluable gift because it helps us continue our journey. In this life, you are never truly walking alone. Perhaps sometimes you feel heartbreakingly lonely, but Buddhist Dharma itself, the wholesome affinities you have sown, the people who silently love you, all are still walking with you on this path. There are times you don't see them, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. When life becomes too heavy, allow yourself to slow down a little. Slowing down is not retreating or procrastinating, but giving the heart time to recover. Humans are not machines that must always run at full capacity. A cup filled too full will overflow. A heart that accumulates too much sorrow will soon be depleted. Slow down to realize that nothing in this world is too urgent. Even the sun needs to rise slowly each morning. It cannot suddenly leap into the sky in an instant. Love yourself more, not with empty words, but with real actions like getting enough sleep, having a decent meal, enjoying an evening stroll without pressure. Self-love is the first step to healing everything. And when you are too tired, the most dangerous thing is to think that you can bear it alone. Life does not demand you to be a hero. Buddhist Dharma does not teach you to bravely endure everything. The Buddha taught that people must rely on the triple gem, rely on good friends, rely on wholesome words, so as not to be swallowed by the darkness of vexations. Whenever your mind is too full of negative thoughts, turn back to listen to the Buddha's teachings, not to ask for a miracle, but for the mind to be illuminated, Sometimes, just hearing one sentence can awaken you from the slump that is pulling you down. One day, a young man ran to ask the Buddha. He said he was too tired, too scared, too sad because of the things happening in his life. The Buddha was silent for a moment, then asked him, "How many stones are you carrying in your bag?" The young man was confused and replied that he wasn't carrying any stones. The Buddha smiled and said, "The things that weigh you down are not from outside, but from the very stones you put into your heart. Those are anger, attachment, resentment, worry, and fear. To lighten your heart, you must learn to put each of those stones down." That story is not just for that young man, but for all of us. People suffer because they embrace too many things that fundamentally do not belong to them. Whenever you feel you cannot endure anymore, remember that you deserve a lighter life. You deserve peace and love. No one is born only to carry suffering. Every challenge that comes into life is a lesson for the mind to mature. The firmer the mind, the less storms can sink you. When you know how to let go of unnecessary things, you will realize that peace has never abandoned you. It was only obscured by the heavy thoughts you unintentionally embraced. Buddhist Dharma is always a guiding light for those who are lost. No matter how dark life is, just a small lamp is enough to see the way. May the things shared in this discourse become such a lamp in your heart. A lamp that not only illuminates the present, but also warms the days to come. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to become the most peaceful version of yourself. Whatever pain you are currently facing, please believe that all storms will pass. No rain lasts forever. No sadness stays permanently. When you know how to return to your breath, return to yourself, return to wholesome teachings, your mind will gradually become tranquil. A tranquil heart will naturally see the way. A peaceful soul will naturally know how to move forward. May you realize from this moment on that you are not alone. You have Buddhist Dharma illuminating your path. You have loved ones silently praying for you. And most importantly, you have yourself. You are the longest companion in this life. Learn to embrace yourself, forgive yourself, and be gentle with yourself. When you know how to love yourself, life will also begin to be gentler. May your mind always be at peace. May all storms eventually pass, eventually